Hello and welcome to event 9 of the 10 event 40 race 2019 Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship. As always, my name is Aaron Thompson. We're coming to you now for race 33. But before then, a quick walk down the pit lane.
Thanks, Aaron. Welcome to the Sepang International Circuit for round 33 out of 40 of the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship. We're going to go live in a few seconds, so watch this race.
Thank you very much, Peter. Now up to race control to watch the start of the race. On pole position, we have Elias Sapanen ahead of Luke Allen and Moise Mustafa. Just behind them, Ishraf Danish and Frederico Peters rounding out the top 5. So that gives you 2 Malaysian competitors in the top 5 this weekend. Amir Harris in 6th place at the start of this race, but unfortunately he seemed to have stalled on the formation lap, so he's going to be relegated to starting from the pit lane. Back in P7, or now in P6, Luke Thompson followed by Sneha Sharma and Omar Aswat. Fantastic weekend so far. We had a strong testing session with everybody competing to the best of their ability, and as you can see, everyone seems to be taking to the grid as we speak, and you can hear them revving their engines already. As soon as the green flag marshal reaches the other side of the track, the red lights will come on, and as they extinguish, we'll be underway once again for the 33rd time this season. Seems like there may be a delay now. Perhaps they're going to reposition cars due to the missing number 19 car of Amir Harris. Just a moment, bear with us, ladies and gentlemen, as the circuit sorts out the condition, and we hopefully get underway very soon. As you can see there on the left-hand side of your screen, the green flag marshal on the walkie-talkie trying to sort out the issue and decide how to move forwards. I'm sure in just a few moments race control will sort everything out, but until then, let's have a little bit more of a look through our starting grid and talk about what's to come this weekend. So of course we have four races as always in the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship. We're a 10 event 40 race championship this year. This weekend we got one race today on Saturday, of course at 10 o'clock GMT +8. Tomorrow we have 3 races. Race 34, 35 and 36, of course, concluding the 9th event, the penultimate event in the championship. 10 o'clock start tomorrow morning, then 11:45, then 3 o'clock, and it looks like the red lights have come on. And as they extinguish, we're underway now. Everyone seems to get away well. Elias Sapanen at the front of the pack didn't seem to have any issues, as Luke Allen now ducking in behind the red number 58 car of the Finn. Behind them, of course, the pink number 13 of Malaysia's rocket, Moise Mustafa, who looks like he's going to have a little bit of a sneaky peek up the inside as Luke Allen tries to go all the way around side at turn 1 on Elias Sapanen, and looks like Frederico Peters and perhaps Omar Aswat are side by side coming through turn 1, and Luke Allen not able to make anything happen coming down on the inside of turn 2, sliding behind Elias Sapanen, ducking in behind him to get the slipstream up the hill into turn 4 and maybe make a move at that corner. As you can see, the pink number 13 car of Moise Mustafa trying to fend off the man behind him, which would be Frederico Peters at the moment, if I'm not mistaken. As we come down through turn 4, looks like on the outside we've got an overtake between Luke Allen and Elias Sapanen. Let's have a quick look, and yes indeed, ladies and gentlemen, Luke Allen around the outside at turn 4 takes position away from Elias Sapanen. Moise Mustafa trying to take advantage of that situation. You can see he's catched right up to the men in front of him, and he's going to be all over the back of Elias Sapanen as well through the second sector of the track now. Coming down through turn 6, breaking point into turn 7 is about 50 meters if I'm not mistaken, and turn 7 and 8 are effectively one gigantic corner, as you'll see in just a moment. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Go about midway out to the track, a little bit more, 2/3 of the way perhaps, and then back across into turn 8, then down the straight into turn 9, then up the uphill section of turn 9, 10, 11, cresting down into 12 and 13, which are flat out, braking about halfway down the corner into turn 14, and then you got the back straight, and of course the very famous iconic ultimate corner of this circuit, turn 15, the off-camber traction, which section of the track, which really makes things very interesting. As indeed, as Elias Sapanen seems to go quite wide coming out of turn 11, Luke Allen going to try and take advantage of that. I'm sure he's got his eyes set on winning every race this weekend, and he may just be able to do it. He's had a tough few last events. Bad luck for him really in event 7 and 8, but he seems to be back on form. Fastest man in free practice, and in qualifying only second by 2/10. And as you can see now, of course, the lead of the race on the first lap. Fantastic drive for him. As you can see further back down the grid, we've got the orange number 57 car of Frederico Peters, and who's that just behind him? Number 42, that would be Luke Thompson. Luke Thompson trying to make a move up the inside at turn 15 on Frederico Peters. Looks like he's got it set, but Fred's going to cross back. Luke outbraked himself, and Fred's got the better line now coming out of that corner. Fantastic driving there from the Portuguese and Irishman. As we come across the start-finish line with Luke Allen in first position, followed by Elias Sapanen, and then Moise Mustafa. Moise drifting to the inside of the corner. Looks like he's adjusting his mirrors a little bit there as well. Down into into turn 1, not quite close enough to make a move, but Luke Thompson may want to try something once again. He outbraked himself at turn 15, and Fred managed to cross back over under him and get a better exit and come back into regain his 4th position. Of course, Luke now rounding out their top 5. It seems unfortunate Amir Harris not able to rejoin the race, or perhaps indeed he was, because I have him on screen as being in P7 at the moment as we come around turn 3 now, up the hill into turn 4. Where is Israel Danish though, ladies and gentlemen? Car number 99 should be further down the grid. Looks to me like he's a little bit further back than he would want to be as we come through turn 4 now with the pink number 13 of Muiz Mushafir on screen at the moment. This is the best chance this weekend for Malaysia to have a man on the podium, and indeed they have one already if Muiz stays in this position, but he's got to try and catch up to men in front of him if he wants anything interesting to happen. Elias Sapanen, though, the man in 2nd position, the red number 58, the Finn, of course, has had a fantastic battle all season with the man in front of him, Luke Allen, the blue number 3 car. Luke, of course, slightly more experienced driver, but the rookie Elias Sapanen not giving him any chance at all, not giving him any leeway. It's been a fantastic battle to watch between the two young athletes as we continue up into turn 9. There's turn 10, they're cresting at the moment. Then you peak at the top of the hill, turn 11, you start to move down towards turn 12 and 13, where you're going about 180 kilometers an hour or so. As we continue this race 33, let's have a look and see if Elias Sapanen can try and catch in to Luke Allen. It just seemed to me that so coming around turn 14 now, you can see, of course, Luke Allen still at the front of the grid in the blue number 3 car, driving fantastically this weekend for the Sizzling Irishman, keeping Elias Sapanen behind him, of course, stretching his advantage now down into turn 15. Muiz Mushafir trying to catch up to 2 men in front from, but doesn't seem to quite have the pace in qualifying. Let's have a look at the qualifying times. Muiz Mushafir was doing a 2:14.554, so that's 0.3 of a second slower than Luke Allen and 0.5 off pole position, as Luke Thompson a little bit too far away from Frederico Peters to make anything happen at the moment. Let's have a quick look to the timing screens as we come across the start finish line now. Luke Allen doing a 2:14.73, and Elias Sapanen doing a 2:14.687. So you can see indeed, ladies and gentlemen, the gap very close between the first 2 drivers, at least in terms of lap time. On track, they're only separated by 0.4 of a second, so they're not separated by much there either. But you can see, if you look through the sector times, interestingly enough, Muiz Mushafir doing the fastest 3rd sector, while Elias Sapanen gaining in the first half of the track before Luke Allen. So it's the fastest final sector of at least that last lap. Let's have a look at the lap before that. Looks to me like they, unfortunately I don't have that information, but we'll have a quick look back later on as we come down through turn 4. Can Elias Sapanen do to Luke Allen what Luke did to him on the first lap? Not quite close enough between the 2 drivers to make it happen, as Muiz Mushafir seems to have drifted further back from the leading 2 drivers, while Frederico Peters is still challenging or being challenged by Luke Thompson, the Irishman, of course, joining us this weekend in event 9 at the 10 event 40 race Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship. As we come around turn 6 now, Elias, of course, as we know, faster in the first half of this track, and he's continued that trend, doing a 28.971 in the first sector, which is about 0.03 of a second faster than the man in front of him, and then a 29.422 in the second sector, which is about 1/100 of a second faster in the than the man in front of him. So of course Elias does seem to have the pace, but as we noted on the last lap, Luke Allen seems to kick into gear in the second half of the track. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, for your information, Sepang International Circuit is a 4-sector circuit, of course, an F1 FIA Grade 1 circuit. So fantastic racing action from everybody, and it's really a great place to learn your trade, because it's got everything. It's got hairpins, it's got straights, it's got every kind of complex corner you can imagine, and it really gives you a chance to learn everything you need to know in this business. As you come down around 10:40 now, Luke Allen managing to set the fastest 3rd sector of the lap at 39.017, about 0.06 of a second faster than the man behind him, which puts him about on level playing field with Elias as they come down into the final corner now on this, the second lap of the race, with 13 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. I estimate about another 5 or 6 laps as Luke Thompson tries up the inside once again at turn 15 on Frederico Peters. Fred tries to switch back on the Irishman, but not quite able to do it as he ducks in for the slipstream now, and they come across the start-finish line with their positions reversed. Frederico Peters now in P5, and Luke Thompson moving up into P4. Fantastic drive from both young gentlemen, putting on a great show for us this weekend. So we come down through turn 1. Elias Sapanen now looking at the outside, but he's not quite close enough to make anything happen between himself and Luke Allen, though the Finn did once again set the faster lap time, about a 0.05 of a second up on the man in front of him. And as we said, again, Luke Allen seems to be slightly faster in the second half of the track, setting the faster third sector, and Elias managing to be slightly faster in the first half of the track, which is very interesting indeed. As you can hear some tire squeal there. I'm sure we'll find out what happens to that later on, as Maurice Verschaffer, I'm sure, trying to take advantage now of the battle between the two gentlemen in front of him as he comes down into turn 4. Or turn 5 even, as Luke Allen tries to fend off Elias Panin. This has got to be scrubbing time from Luke Allen, because he's got to drive defensively, because Elias only 3/10 or 4/10 of a second behind him. He's really got that red car all over the back of his mirrors, and there's got to be a major concern for the young Irishman, the sizzling Irishman, as we like to call him. Of course, coming down the straight into corner 9 now, you can see Maurice Verschaffer still has his hat in the ring. The Malaysian driver, the Malaysian rocket, 1.73 seconds off the leader, 1.3 seconds off the man in front of him. He's got to pick up the pace if he wants to make anything happen. He's about 4/10 of a second faster, slower than the two drivers in front of him at the moment. But as we know from Maurice Verschaffer, he does pick up the pace in the second half of the race. And with 11 minutes and 42 seconds left to go, Maurice is about to get his cue to kick it into overdrive. Coming down through turn 12 and then turning right into turn 13 before the hard braking point. Just about here, you can see how close Elias Panin is now. He's really going for it. We've had overtakes at turn 14 before, even at turn 13 with Adam Cowell and Alice Young a few years ago, but not quite close enough here between Luke Allen and Elias Panin for the Finn to make anything happen. As he comes down the back straight now, he's going to get a fantastic tow on the man in front of him. Maybe make a move up the inside, try to dive bomb the sizzling Irishman, but he's a little bit too far behind to make it happen this lap as he comes a little bit wider. Of course, Luca trying to drive defensively and keep the Finn behind him, so you got to keep that in mind. It's maybe a little bit squirrely on the exit from Elias Panin, maybe not. As we come down the main straight now and across the start finish line, let's have a quick look at the time screens. Elias Panin once again about well, this time about 8/10 or 6/10 of a second faster than the man in front of him. So you can see Elias really trying to do everything he can to get in front, but the gap consistently about 3/10 of a second between himself and Luke Allen. But you can see how close indeed they are. Almost close enough to have a dive up or even around the outside at turn 2. That would be something spectacular to watch, but just not quite close enough at the moment as to come across the Malaysian flag here at the Sepang International Circuit for event 9 in the 10 event 40 race Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship. Of course, fueled by Petron. All the cars this weekend, as always, fueled by Petron, using the Petron Blaze Racing engine oil and the Petron Ron 100 fuel. As we come through turn 4 now, the blue and red cars on screen at the moment are Luke Allen and Elias Panin. Luca in the blue number 3 and Elias Panin in the red number 58. As we come down into sector 4 now with this fantastic new camera angle, giving us a better look at the straight between corner 4 and corner 5 and 6, which are effectively one gigantic corner, which you have to really have to nail it to go flat through, and otherwise you're going to be scrubbing just a little bit of time off of your lap, and that's what counts. If you scrub a little bit of time here, a little bit of time there, that's what the difference is. As you can see, the gap between Luke Allen and Elias Panin, 6/10 of a second, 600ths of a second, at least in terms of lap time, and that's what it is. You're just scrubbing a little bit here, you're scrubbing a little bit there, and it adds up. But interestingly enough, Luke Thompson just set the fastest second sector of the race so far, 29.212. Fantastic from him. He managed to get past Frederico Peters in the orange number 57, and now he seems to be trying to catch up to the man in front of him, Maurice Verschaffer, but he's got a 3.7 second gap to close, and with only 9 laps to go, I'm not sure if that's possible. And of course, as we said before, Maurice Verschaffer always wakes up in the second half of the race, and he's done just that, setting his fastest lap of the race so far, 2:14.623, going setting personal bests in the first, second, third, and now maybe the fourth sector. We'll know in just a moment as he crosses the start-finish line. You can see him now, the pink number 13 car, just behind the battling leaders of the blue number 3, Luke Allen, the red number 58 of Elias Panin. Is Elias close enough to make something happen? Is he going to try and go all the way around the outside? Maybe not. Looks like he's going to try and switch back up the inside on the exit. Maybe not. He's going to tuck back in behind Luke Allen. That's maybe the smart move to make, because now he's set himself up perfectly for something to happen at corner 1 as he crosses the start-finish line. Once again, let's have a look at Luke Allen's lap time, a 2:14.370 and a 2:14.313. Not personal best for either driver, but you can see the trend continuing. Elias about 600ths of a second faster than the man in front of him, as Maurice Verschaffer goes faster than it beats his personal best once again with the 2:14.529. So Maurice definitely speeding up, but not speeding up enough to catch the man in front of him, who are still lapping 0.2 of a second faster than the Malaysian rocket. Interestingly to note, Luke Thompson also does his personal best over 2:14.385, so he's lapping 0.2 of a second faster than the man currently sitting in third position. Although Maurice Verschaffer may be considering now just conserving his tires, because he's quite comfortably distanced himself from any challenge for third position, and he's a little bit too far back back to make it happen for second. So he may be considering to conserve his tyres, start higher up the order than the two leaders, and try and get to the front of the next grid. That may be a possibility for the Malaysian rocket. But let's have a quick look now to the replay at the start of the race. Here we go. And red lights are out. We're on the way. Elias Pan on the left-hand side of your screen looks to get a little bit squirmy coming out of his box and coming down the main straight now. You see Luke Allen trying to go to the outside. Maurice Mujaffer following him. Luke Thompson has a look to the outside, goes all the way around the outside of Frederico Peters. As Neha Sharma follows through, and they all dive up into turn 2. You can see Luke Allen trying to make something happen, but just a little bit too far back on the Finnish driver to make it up into first position. But not to worry, because he managed to get there eventually. As you can see on screen now, the gap between himself and the Finn, 2.5 tenths of a second at the start of this race. And interesting enough, Luke Allen goes fastest in the first sector this time around, beating Elias by about 7/700ths of a second. At least in the first sector, they seem to be pretty evenly matched. Although Luca may be 500ths of a second faster in the second sector and the third sector. So that's interesting to note. Luca seems to have picked up a little bit of time, or perhaps Elias Tapanin deciding to take a little bit of a cool down lap. That is a trend in Formula Car racing, or at least here in Formula 4 Southeast Asia. You push for one lap, you sort of back off a little bit for the next lap, let everything settle, and then you push again, unless you're close enough to the driver in front of you that you want to just keep going and try and chip out the lead. And Elias Tapanin may be able to do something very soon, because we're on lap 6, and with 6 minutes left to go, there's not enough time left on the board for Elias to find a way past the man in front from the sizzling Irishman as they dive up into turn 2 now, with Luke Allen in the blue number 3 car once again at the front of the back. Elias Pan in the red number 58 in second position, and Maurice Mujaffer rounding out the top 3. Of course, the Malaysian rocket. I'm sure the Malaysian fans are going to be very happy to see him in that third position, but it's not exactly where he wanted to be. He's 2.214 seconds behind the man in front of him, and Luke Thompson is closing in behind him, lapping slightly faster, and there may be something to say there in the closing sectors of the race, but with only 5 minutes left to go, that gives us about 3 laps, so it may not be realistic to hope for, as Luke Allen now brings us through turn 5 and crests into turn 6 as Sneha Sharma goes down turn 1 and through turn 2. Fantastic drive for her so far this weekend. She's found a lot of time down into the 2.16s in testing, if I'm not mistaken. Seems like she's in the 2.17s at the moment. Of course, a little bit of a difference between testing and racing, and Sneha aware of that like everyone else. As Maurice Mujaffer goes a little bit wide on the exit of turn 7 and 8. As we break now into turn 9, up the hill into turn 10. Elias Tapanin not quite close enough to make anything happen on Luke Allen, but ducking in behind the Irishman, who seems to have found time in the first sector, and goes faster once again this lap with a 28.896 in the first sector. That is 4/10ths of a second faster than the man behind him. Oh, sorry, excuse me, it's actually 800ths of a second faster than the man behind you. You can see that reflected perhaps slightly in the gap on track, although 800ths of a second, I'm not sure if you can see that at all. As we come around turn 14 now, the blue number 3 car, Luke Allen, driving for Ireland this weekend once again here at the Sepang International Circuit. Fantastic drive from him so far. Managed to get up into first position on the first lap, overtaking at the outside of turn 4. I'm sure Elias Bannon wasn't suspecting that. Elias had his head down the whole race so far, trying to catch up to the man in front of him, but just not quite able to do it. Faster in the first half of the track, at least for the first half of the race, but now Luke Allen seems to have found a little bit of time in that first sector, and that's keeping the Finn behind him. He's just not got quite enough to catch up to the Irishman. Indeed, that's not a fair statement. He's 3/10ths of a second away from the Irishman. He's right there, but he's just not got enough to find a way past him. Luke driving very well to keep the Finn behind him. As we come down through turn 1 now, Elias Tapanin is still just a little bit too far back to make anything happen, though it does seem to break a little bit later, maybe holding out hope that he can go around the outside at turn 1 and set it up for turn 2, but decides wisely, of course, to duck in behind Luke Allen and try and get the slipstream as they come through turn 3 across the Malaysian flag up into turn 4, and I'm sure it's on Elias's mind to pay back Luke Allen for what happened at the beginning of the race and perhaps go around the outside at turn 4, although it looks like the Finnish driver a little bit too far back to make that happen, at least this lap. With 3 minutes 35 seconds left on the board, I estimate 2 laps left until the checkered flag, so there's plenty of time here at the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship to have more action on screen, and I'm sure Elias Tapanin planning on just that, perhaps a dive on the last corner at the last lap, which is what we love to see here in the Sepang International Circuit. Of course, turn 15 always gives us something interesting in every race. We saw earlier on Frederico Peters managing to claim back position from Luke Thompson, and Luke Thompson taking it back again eventually, and now the order between the two drivers. Well, let's have a quick run down the whole order. We've got Luke Allen, as we know, first position, Elias Stepanin in second, close second, 0.3 of a second off the leader, then Maurice Mustafa, Luke Thompson and Fred Peters. That's your top 5, ladies and gentlemen. As we come around down through turn 11 now, with Luke Allen, of course, on screen in the blue number 3 car, managed to keep Elias Stepanin just behind him, but you can see the gap, ladies and gentlemen, is almost non-existent. 3.5 of a second at the beginning of this lap. Luca, interestingly enough, doing a personal best lap of 2:14.189, finding time seemingly in the first and third sectors. It's not the fastest lap of the race so far, ladies and gentlemen, but it is the fastest lap he's done so far, and that's interesting to note, because it seems like Elias is, I mean, is within the same bracket, but just not quite as fast as he was at the beginning of the race. Maybe deciding to keep his tyres in condition to start ahead of Luca at the next race. But I think we're going to have a quick replay of some action now, or perhaps indeed I'm mistaken. We're coming into the last lap, as I think I saw the check flag being waved. Is that correct? Let's have a quick look. There we go. Last lap board is out on the left-hand side of your screen. You saw it just a moment ago. It was the orange board. You may be able to see it from this angle. There we are, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. As Frederick Peters comes across the start-finish line, looks like Elias Stepanin just close enough to try and have a little bit of a look, but decides against. He's going to go around the outside. Can he maintain this lane? If he can keep it in there, he can try and have a look up the inside at turn 2, but decides to duck back in behind Luke Allen to maintain his second position, not taking any risks here, the young Eliases. And as Luke Allen, of course, Luke Allen and Elias Stepanin, the man fighting for the championship, really is between these two young drivers. Then you've got Maurice Mustafa, Shihab Al-Habsi also in the fight. But a little bit further back, if Maurice wants to make something happen in the championship, he's really got to think about running these next 8 races, or the next 7 races at this point, because it seems like Luke Allen has this one in the bag as we come around turn 5 on the final lap of the race 33. This race 1 this weekend, but race 33 this season here at the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship. Here we go around turn 6 now, very wide there on the exit from Elias Stepanin. Of course, the Finn trying to push it to the absolute limit, but that's going to hurt him, because every little inch counts now, ladies and gentlemen. The gap between the two, 3.1 of a second at the beginning of the lap. Elias Stepanin is close enough to make something happen, but Lucas managed to hold him off this far. I hope I don't give them the commentators' cuss, either driver, of course, because we wish them both well, but it looks like Lucas has driven fantastically, flawlessly this race, and managed to keep the Finn behind him. And at this point, maybe wise for Elias to think, okay, let's conserve my tyres and let's think about the next race, as it looks like something's gone wrong for Sneha Sharma, and the marshal seems to be returning her to the pit lane, hopefully, as we come around turn 13 now, and then down into turn 14 almost immediately. Fantastic drive from Luke Allen, comes up the back straight. This is now the last chance for Elias Stepanin, the last chance for Finland to make something happen here at the Sepang International Circuit in race 33 of the season. As they come down the back straight, is Elias going to be able to jump up the inside? Looks to me like he's a little bit too far back to make that maneuver. And indeed he did, as Luke Allen crests turn 15 and takes us down the main straight now. Fantastic drive from the sizzling Irishman as they cross the start-finish line. And Luke Allen takes it for Ireland. Very well done indeed to the young Irishman. Fantastic drive from him, fantastic drive from Elias Stepanin, as well as Maurice Mustafa crosses in 3rd position. And Luke Thompson takes it home in 4th, if I'm not mistaken, just ahead of Frederico Peters in 5th. That's your top 5, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic race to watch. A lot of more action to come, of course, as we said, tomorrow morning, 3 races here at the Sepang International Circuit.
I got a good start, and then managed to take Elias on the outside of turn 4, and then from there really it was just about kind of managing it. I had a lot of pressure from Elias behind, so there was definitely no room for mistakes, but yeah, I managed to keep my composure and bring it home. Elias is a very consistent driver, so it really pushes me to also do my best and to keep the consistency in the race.
I don't have really good start, but it was quite nice. In the first few laps, I was trying to catch up Elias, but it was quite quick, and also Luca was like, they were pushing each other. So I was trying to catch up them, but it's too late.
Well, the start wasn't great. I lost a little bit of time for the guys in front of me, and Luke caught up quite a bit. And then fought for about 2 laps. He managed to get past me and create quite a gap, so I just started kind of managing my tires and not really pushing too hard.
So for the race one, my engine died on the start, so I had to start from the pit lane. After that, it was just catching up, but then I only could caught up to 6, which was my starting position. So after that, I just played conservative with my tires and saved it for race 2 and 3.
First race was good. I had a good start, did a good lap time, my consistency improved. Also had some fight with the mid-pack and had a good finish, so I'm happy.
Really, from me, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the race. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.